9 Flames Sovereign Chapter 10, Cuba is tragedy again. In the 7 days of cultivation, if the total amount of internal energy in the initial stage of fan level is 100, Han Feng has already cultivated nearly 30 internal energy at this moment. Such progress has approached the cultivation speed of Dongpin qualification. There are two main reasons for this. First of all, Han Feng was not unable to cultivate internal energy, but the internal energy cultivated was absorbed by the 9 Flame Skyfire Tower, but this was not absorbed for no reason. It must be the internal energy that follows the meridian route. During this period, the meridians have been exercised. It can be said that the expansion and tenacity of the meridians of Han Feng is no less than that of the warriors at the peak of the early stage. Before breaking through to the middle of the mortal stage, Han Feng will practice at this speed between the low-grade qualifications and the middle-grade qualifications. Secondly, the 9 Flames different fire art is also a powerful art. There is no specific level. It is far from the basic inner strength art that Han Feng had previously practiced. Take the first level of the 9 Flames different fire art as an example. As long as Han Feng cultivates the first level, he can generate ordinary fire, no matter what level Han Feng is at, even the early stage of the ordinary fire. But other warriors, only in the later stages of the mortal stage, can they continuously condense their internal energy, and then generate attribute innocence. And if you want to produce mortal fire or mortal water and other things, you must have a human rank. These two major reasons have created Yihan's rapid practice now. It's a pity that the time is still too short. In terms of the total amount of internal energy, among the Korean teenagers in the training ground, except for the 10-year-old and 11-year-old who just joined, they still belong to the lower end. But when compared with Cuba, it is faintly exceeded. The next day, the Han family training ground. A group of Han Jirlang looked at a black-faced boy with weird eyes from time to time. Han Feng looked at this boy with a smile on his face. Very weird. This boy is Cuba. Cuba is very embarrassed and angry. Cuba knows that these people clearly see him, but he always has a feeling that he is actually looking at his ass. Instructor Lin frowned and sneered, "What are you looking at? You still don't concentrate on cultivation?" In his heart, Instructor Lin was wondering, this Cuba is not a genius, why is it attracting so many people's attention today? Could it be the reason that Cuba took sick leave before? But when have these little guys been so loved by their compatriots? Moreover, many people glanced vaguely at Cuba's ass. What is so good about a man's ass? Nowadays, the little guy is getting more and more difficult to understand. Is this the generation gap caused by age? Instructor Lin, as a member of the hunting team, has a general interest in gossip. Where do you know that the injured part of Cuba is unusual? According to the rules, after a period of practice, you will have to fight in pairs. Cuba strode towards Han Feng and said gloomily, "Han Feng, can you dare to learn from me?" After experiencing the exploded chrysanthemum, Cuba no longer wants to make a lot of effort. The other Han boys who were planning to compete, their ears stood upright. When they heard that Cuba and Han Feng were about to compete, they stopped discussing. They all looked around, with inexplicable expressions on their faces. Cuba is even more embarrassed and angry, but it is a pity that Cuba's face is too dark to see any abnormality. Instructor Lin has been paying attention to Han Feng since Han Feng was able to cultivate his internal energy. At this moment, I really want to see how Han Feng is. I am embarrassed to drive away the Han boys who are watching around. Han Feng chuckled, "Cuba, it seems that the lesson I taught you last time was not enough." Cuba gritted his teeth, "I was careless last time, and I was fooled by you. This time, I will not panic like the last time." Han Feng shrugged, 7 days ago was 7 days ago. The situation is different, don't forget, I can now cultivate my internal energy. Cuba's face sank, "Just 7 days, do you want to tell me that you have passed me?" Maybe it was too angry, Cuba grinned very angry, "No matter how bad I am, I have practiced for 3 years, Han Feng, you are too arrogant." Instructor Lin in the distance frowned unconsciously, "This Cuba, how dare to speak to Han Feng like this? Han Feng is a direct line of the family. Cuba is just the son of slaves, and the current slaves are all arrogant to this level? Let's talk about it. Where did the instructor Lin know that this is the case in Cuba? It was completely stimulated by the explosion of chrysanthemums. The pain of being exploded, except for the person involved, who knows? Among the crowd, Han Lin's face was not good, but after thinking that Cuba had been exploded with a chrysanthemum after all, his face was distorted, and he muttered, "Forget it, it's probably irritating." That's why Han Feng committed the crime so blatantly. Han Feng didn't mind Cuba's anger. He smiled, "If you want to fight, then fight." Cuba stomped on the ground and leapt into the air, and the basic legwork exploded with a terrifying force. Boom! With the current strength of Han Feng, how could he be kicked by Cuba and dodge directly, while on the ground, accompanied by a bang, there were foot pits several millimeters deep. Cuba was full of anger. "Dodge again, Han Feng? What other tricks do you have besides dodge which consumes my energy? But this time, I won't waste my energy at will." Han Feng laughed and said, "Don't worry, I won't hide this time. It doesn't matter if I attack directly." Basic Changquan Ninth Form. Basic Changquan Ninth Form. The two-fisted. Boom. Both of them were backed by the huge reaction force at the same time. www. Well, novel. Han Feng took 9 steps, but Cuba took 11 steps. Make a judgment. The crowd was in an uproar. It's terrible. In just 7 days, Han Feng has surpassed Cuba. This speed is amazing. At this speed, before Han Lin leaves the training ground, it is impossible to be surpassed. I thought Han Feng was going to suffer this time, now it seems. Han Lin had an unbelievable and complicated expression. If there was no such thing as the fourth uncle, it would be great. Cuba screamed in disbelief, "Impossible. It is impossible." Instructor Lin's eyes flickered one after another. "It's a terrifying growth rate, comparable to the middle grade qualifications. You must tell the patriarch about today's affairs." At this moment, Cuba roared, "Even so, you don't want to explode my chrysanthemum today." Han Feng can't laugh or cry. He has already surpassed Cuba in strength now, so how can he use such nasty tricks? "But," Han Feng said badly, "since you protect her like this, it's not good to disappoint you." After saying this, Han Feng quickly attacked Cuba. His fierce boxing and leg skills made Cuba rush into the hands and feet. He was finally spotted by Han Feng. He came to Cuba behind him. He burst into action and started again. The scream that made everyone in the Han family feel painful and familiar. The first update has been updated. Please support.